They're here.
One, two, three!
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new movie review. And no, I keep forgetting this, but I'm here with Halloween Horror Movie Reviews Episode 2. Yeah, we are now on to the second episode of Halloween Horror Movie Reviews Season 3. And so, what is going to be for this episode? Well, second episode is going to be for a 1982 film directed by Tobe Hooper and produced by Steven Spielberg, and that film is going to be for the legendary 1982's Poltergeist. Yeah. So, what's the plot of this film? Well, a young family is visited by ghosts in their home. At first, the ghosts appear friendly, moving objects around the house to the amusement of everyone. Then they turn nasty and start to terrorize the family before they kidnap the youngest daughter. Yeah. How's this film made? Well, Michael Grez and Mark Victor had written an unproduced comedy called Turn Left and Die in the action film Death Hunt when Steven Spielberg decided to invite them to possibly work with him. After screening them, a guy named Joe stated that he wanted to remake that film, which he would in 1989. As always, Spielberg had even mentioned that he had thought of a ghost story and intended to turn it into a script. Grez called him in the next day saying that he and Victor only had interest in the ghost story, and after plans with another writer fell through, Spielberg brought the two to the job. Principal photography rolled most on Roxbury Street in Simi Valley, California. Following completion of principal photography in the first week of August 1981, Hooper went on to spend 10 weeks in the editing room compiling the first cut of the film. During much of this time, Spielberg was at Industrial Light and Magic supervising the VFX photography for the film that would end up being called Poltergeist. So after Poltergeist was filmed, finished, completed, and marketed, it would go on to be released by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer on June 4th, 1982. The Poltergeist was a major critical and commercial success, becoming the 8th highest-grossing film of 1982, and one of the highest-grossing horror movies at the time. In years since its release, the film has been recognized as a horror classic. It was nominated for 3 Academy Awards, named by the Chicago Film Critics Association as the 20th scariest film ever made, and the scene of the clown doll attack was ranked at number 80 on Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments, and the film appeared at number 84 on American Film Institute's 100 Years, 100 Thrills, which is a list of America's most heart-pounding movies, and it would be followed by 2 sequels, with first being Poltergeist 2: The Other Side in 1986, and Poltergeist 3 in 1988, and sadly it was followed by an atrocious 2015 remake. As for my reaction, well, here's the thing. Originally, when I first saw it years ago, I remember not being too big of a fan of this movie when I first saw it back when I was getting introduced to horror movies, mainly because I had such shitty taste back then. However, I'm older now and my taste for horror has improved, thankfully, and I finally rewatched the movie last weekend, and I gotta say, this is probably would have to now be one of my favorite non-R-rated horror films of the 80s. It's often put into question exactly who directed Poltergeist. Was it Tobe Hooper, or did Steven Spielberg in fact overstep his duties and direct this film? Well, since E.T. was yet to be released, he was not allowed to direct any other picture in the meantime, and personally, technically to me, both Hooper and Spielberg directed this film, as at times it definitely has a very Spielberg-like feel to the film, and Hooper was learning how to use effects in the film from Spielberg, who did the story, co-wrote, and produced, as well as Spielberg himself went out and got Hooper, who had scared audiences earlier with some other great horror flicks like 1974's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Salem's Lot. And another thing similar, and this wasn't the only horror movie Spielberg had really involvement in. He did direct a film called Jaws, and ironically, both this and Jaws have pretty similar problems. They both got some pretty shitty sequels that nobody liked. Well, the only difference with Jaws is at least Jaws didn't get a shitty remake. Oh crap, did I just say that out loud? I really hope they don't actually consider that now. Now for the Freeling family. The Freelings are nicely nestled in their family new home while Dad Steve, played by Craig T. Nelson, aka would soon play Mr. Incredible, in The Incredibles 2004, 20 years after this, is out selling homes in a neighborhood, and problem is things aren't exactly what they seem. Their youngest, cute, and also at the same time creepy Carol Ann seems to be completely drawn to the TV after it has finished its programming for the day, only to find that the house is haunted by some real supernatural powers. When I originally didn't really like this movie now I really love this film, because it does not use the customary ways to tell a story and is plopped right in the middle of America. The acting is as well as top notch. Nelson is great as the father, but I think JoBeth Williams as the mother Diane hits out one out of the ballpark with her performance. The music by Jerry Goldsmith is excellent and also was nominated for an Oscar. The visual effects were nominated as well, and while some by today's standards are no longer to the top bench in effects, like the dude ripping his face off, some are still quite effective almost 40 years later. I do look at some of the effects as a stepping stone towards what they did in Ghostbusters just a couple of years after this movie's release. Yeah, there's not a really bad actress or actor to be seen across the board, but of course JoBeth Williams, Craig Nelson, Beatrice Straight, Zelda Rubinstein, and Heather O'Rourke do make a powerful nucleus of characters. And watch for little gems like when Steve and Diane go to the neighbor to tell them about their first supernatural experience. It's just brilliant acting combined with great timing. There are many such scenes from comedic to dramatic. I guess one of the highlights is the whole scene when Steve opens for the first time the kids' room door for the parapsychologist. I kind of forgot what a pretty charismatic guy Nelson is. Like in this film, he can be cool and hero-like, funny and vulnerable at the same time. And this is the film that earmarked the combination of classic haunted house thriller with fantasy and family fun and scary sentiment that will later on bring us the 1980s box office hits like E.T., Gremlins, and Indiana Jones, or Raiders of the Lost Ark. And this is one of the classic films that paved the way, and there's no denying its originality, great storyline, effective Jerry Goldsmith music, and breakthrough special effects that defined a special era in filmmaking history. A talented cast together with ahead of its time supernatural elements and entertaining fast-paced humor and eccentrics make this a tour de force all of our suburban childhood traumas, including a ghostly tree, thunderstorm paranoia, a creepy clown doll, and other various toy artifacts that are embedded in our psyches and plague our fears of the unknown and overall uneasiness with innocent curiosities. The film even has some iconic scenes too. Like, for example, first, they have the hallucinated skin peeling scene when one of the investigators ends up peeling off all the skin on his face, which is all hallucinated. There was also the clown puppet near the end, which is also terrifying. The tension building in this movie is fantastic, and it manages to keep you interested throughout the runtime with its fantastic story and iconic moments like when the main character Carol Ann says they're here. It's a chilling moment that is an iconic scene in horror. And Carol Ann is a pretty great character, and her performance by Heather O'Rourke, rest in peace too, because she tragically died young, are incredible as the rest of the cast in this movie. The effects for the most part still hold up, but the use of practical effects, it's amazing. I even like the design of the beast at the end of the movie. He still looks fantastic this day, and it's such an odd, creepy design that works for the movie. The ending is awesome as well. I really like the family escaping, and it's not really been solved completely whether or not the poltergeist is over. And the last scene where the dad puts the TV outside is hilarious and really subtle. It's a very great way to end the film. Do I have some issues with the movie though? Yeah, maybe just one. I think my only real issue with the movie is it can be a little slow at times, but it does manage to keep you interested with its story and characters. And some of the effects are dated, like the one that stands out the most is the guy ripping his skin off. It looks a little dated now, but it's still a great scene, but it just looks a little dated compared to the other effects in the movie. But overall, despite that one bad quality, Poltergeist is a perfect non-R-rated horror movie of the 80s and Tope's second best horror film, and one of the best films that was produced by Spielberg but not directed by him. My recommendation is I would highly recommend it to horror buffs, but buffs everywhere that had not seen it or have already seen it and should rewatch it again. Now, anyway. That was pretty... Anyways. That's pretty much for my review of Poltergeist, and if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Poltergeist, here's how I'm going to rank this movie.
So overall, if you love Tobe Hooper and Steven Spielberg combined, then I would easily give this movie a watch and then buy it, add to your collection for sure. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Poltergeist, I'm going to give Poltergeist a 9 out of 10.
There we go. That wraps up my review for Poltergeist. So, you're all wondering what the next episode's going to be. Well, I'll give you guys a clue because it's right behind me. The third episode is going to be for what I watched for the first time last night, and it is a 1980s horror film, except it's actually a remake of a 50s horror movie that I had not seen, and it is one from David Cronenberg and stars Jeff Goldblum. Yes, The Fly is going to be the next episode. Yeah. So that will be real exciting, finally talking about The Fly for the first time, after I had watched it yesterday. But, until then, guys, that will be it for this episode. Thank y'all for watching, Gauls and Goblins. And if you like this and want to see more spooky content, then don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.